A report from NBC's Brian Gumbel on gymnast Nellie Kim.
It was Kim who turned in a surprising performance here to help the Soviets to a surprise victory. A victory many thought they could not accomplish past the strength of the Romanians. Kim's 9.95 floor exercise brought a roar from the home crowd, tears from Nellie Kim, a gold medal for the Soviets, and an emotional reaction from the gymnast. But as he started his 8th dive...
The team preserved their unbeaten record in the Olympics, which dates back to 1952 by taking the gold medal. Romania placed second when superstar Nadia Comaneci fell flat on her back off the horizontal bars. Even in the fall, Comaneci received a 9.50 score to go along with her three previous marks of 9.90s, and continues a strong threat for gold in the all-around. 15-year-old Maxi Nock of East Germany led her team to the bronze. Her perfect 10 on the uneven bars also made her the top qualifier for individual honors, which will be decided tomorrow. Red Sox...
The biggest surprise came when Nadia Comaneci actually fell off the bars where she got 3 perfect 10s at Montreal. She wasn't hurt, but it allowed the Soviets to win the team gymnastic gold medal. East Germany's Rika Reinisch broke another swimming world...
He won the gold for the 8th straight time. They were helped when Romania's Nadia Comaneci fell on the uneven bars. For months now, officials have been practicing.
In the women's gymnastics competition, Nadia Comaneci of Romania fell at her specialty, and so she probably won't win a gold medal. We'll see that fall during this half hour.
These messages.
He'd be all right if we could just get him to lighten up. You know that? It was just too doggone serious around here. Now, Brian Gumbel is going to take a look at some Olympic highlights. We've been saying all morning that Nadia Comaneci had a bad fall.
Yeah, indeed she did. The unthinkable happened, Tom. And, you know, although the Soviet women have won the gold in the team competition for the last 28 years, they weren't expected to win the gold this year in Moscow. Still, as they came into yesterday's optional phase, they were in first place, but definitely playing second fiddle to young Nadia. Day 5 in Moscow was highlighted by the return to competition of the Olympic Games reigning superstar, Romanian Nadia Comaneci. 4 years ago in Montreal, Nadia went to the top of the Olympic class by capturing medals and hearts in equal abundance. At the age of 14, she had skill and grace and combined the two qualities best in the uneven parallel bars. On that apparatus, she made Olympic history by becoming the first gymnast to score a perfect 10 in the Games. Competing in these games, the Moscow Games, Nadia was rated a strong favorite to again win the gold medal on the uneven bars. But instead, she will not even be in the finals on that apparatus. That fact was assured yesterday when the unthinkable happened. As Nadia competed for the team medal, she fell. Nothing could have been more unexpected. In fact, nothing that has occurred in these Moscow Games so far has qualified as a greater surprise than the fall of Nadia Comaneci. The fall ruined an otherwise perfect performance, for even after being assessed the mandatory 5/10 deduction for the fall, Nadia still earned a 9.5. Her spill effectively ended any Romanian hopes for a gold in the team competition and left the way clear for the Soviets to pad their team lead. This effort by Elena Davidova earned a 10 from judges who, like the fans, were captivated by a snappy and sassy floor exercise. The diminutive 19-year-old, Davidova was one of many who took advantage of the chance to use taped music at the Olympic Games for the first time. Davidova's 10 was one of a number of perfect scores turned in yesterday. Although the Romanians were destined for second place, 16-year-old Emilia Eberle stamped herself as a possible Nadia of the future by scoring a perfect 10 on the uneven bars. Finishing third, the East Germans were able to boast of a bronze medal and of the 10-point performance of 15-year-old Maxi Ganauk. Before Nadia in '76, 10s were unheard of in the Olympics. Now they're almost commonplace. Left to the veteran Nellie Kim to seal up the team victory for the Soviet women. She did so with a flourish. Seemed to enjoy an effort that clinched for her team an unexpected win. Kim's 9.95 floor exercise brought a roar from the home crowd, a gold medal for the Soviets, and an emotional reaction from her teammates. Their unbridled joy was in sharp contrast to the cold front that is so typified past Soviet teams. The women's gymnastic team standings look just like this in '76, and with this win, the Soviets continue to trend. They've won the team gold in each Olympics since 1952.
And today in Moscow, they're going to have the men's and women's individual all-around competition. We'll get a look at that tomorrow morning.
There are an awful lot of 10s being given, and they were scarce before. Have they lost their meaning?
They were unheard of before. It's almost as if when Nadia did it, she opened the doors, and now nobody is really sure of just where you draw the line. I mean, if in fact you start taking deductions for mistakes that you see, and you start with a 10, they've gotten so good now that that really it has opened the doors, and they're all over the place. Now it's a 9-8 that's disappointing.
Ryan Gumbel. That's we'll see you tomorrow morning with more Olympic highlights. All right.
That same mistake, but also hope to score high enough to move up in the all-around standings. Her point total of 79.05 is exactly what she had at this point in the competition in Montreal when she was in first. But that total had her only in fourth place today. With that performance, she earned a 10. But in first place, and the person Nadia had to beat today, was tiny Elena Davidova. This charming 19-year-old Soviet girl, who herself earned a 10 in her floor exercise yesterday, needed a solid performance on these uneven bars to stay in front in the competition. She turned in that solid performance and got a 9.95, but then she had to watch as Nadia Comaneci worked the balance beam. Davidova was not the only one who had all eyes turned to the beam. For in order to win the gold medal, Nadia needed a score of 9.95 for her beam exercise. She knew it, and so did the judges whose scores have been consistently high throughout these games. Excessively high in the minds of many. Nadia's beam exercise was outstanding, but exactly how outstanding created a lot of debate and controversy. For 30 minutes, the judges debated among themselves and reportedly argued on behalf of their own national interests. The Romanians tried to make sure that Nadia got the 9.95 score she needed. The Soviets knew anything less would give their girl, Elena Davidova, the gold. It was the Soviets who won out. When the score was posted, Nadia got 9.85. A half hour after her beam exercise, Nadia Comaneci got the score that she knew would drop her in the standings and deprive her of the gold. The 9.85 was just enough to leave the gold medal in the very delighted hands of 19-year-old Elena Davidova, the new queen of women's gymnastics. As for Nadia, she had to settle for tying for the silver medal with Maxi Ganauk of East Germany. Bryant Gumbel reporting.
Time at this year's Olympics,
Yeah, she is. She's back in the headlines again, but not the way she wants to be. She and the Romanian team are in a bitter dispute over a judge's marking today that cost Nadia her overall Olympics gymnastic title in favor of a Russian. She needed a 9.95 to assure her the gold medal. But when she swayed very slightly on the balance beam and then failed to land absolutely perfectly, she was given a 9.85 that made her the silver medalist behind Russia's Elena Davidova. The 6 judges disagreed and allowed controversy rage for half an hour as they ran the videotape over and over. In some other events, the scorching heat
He became the first male ever to win a perfect score of 10 in his event. He's not the first gymnast ever to do so. In Moscow, here is ABC's Dick Schaap.
She burst upon the world in Montreal, a 14-year-old Romanian who blended grace and strength and skill and turned the Olympic Games into a personal showcase. Her name was Nadia Comaneci, and if hardly anyone knew her name before the Games, everyone knew it afterward. She was the first gymnast to achieve perfect 10.0 scores in Olympic competition, and she did it 7 times in Montreal. She went home with 3 gold medals and a glittering reputation. But in the 4 years between Olympics, she faced pressure, injury, and the growing process. She matured toward womanhood. And when the Moscow Olympics began, she faced the fact that she had a new body and a new gymnastic routine.
After Montreal, I changed the elements, the exercise, and the training, it's harder now.
There were rumors her skills had faded, but on the first day of competition, she dispelled those rumors. On the balance beam, she achieved perfection once again, 10.0. The competition continued, and so did Nadia's excellence. She held first place until the final exercise last night on the uneven parallel bars. Then, suddenly, perfection slipped. Unhurt but flawed, she finished the exercise. She fell from first place to 4th in the individual standing. Tonight, Nadia battled back. She scored a perfect 10, ironically, on the uneven bars. She came to the final exercise, the balance beam, needing a 9.95 to win the gold. She was given 9.85, triggering a bitter debate that lasted half an hour. In the end, the decision stood. Elena Davidova was the all-around champion. Nadia, tied for second, settled for silver. Dick Schaap, ABC News, Moscow.
All seemed a distant memory. In a pressure situation when she needed a great score to get back in the running, Nadia Comaneci turned in a perfect 10. Soviet star Nellie Kim re-injured her ankle during yesterday's action, but she refused to take to the sidelines. At 23, Kim is one of the oldest gymnasts in the women's competition and certainly must realize that these Olympic Games will be her last. When the Games opened, some Soviets wondered whether or not Nellie had already stayed too long at the fair. Her enthusiasm, it was suggested, was gone. This 9.45 effort may have confirmed such suspicions among her critics, but it's probable that her injury had more to do with her subpar performance. Along with Nadia, one of those with a real shot at the all-around goal was 15-year-old Maxi Ganauk of East Germany. She earned a 10 in the team competition, but got a 9.7 for this vault. That score, in great part, caused her to fall short of the top spot in the all-around race. The leader in that race, as the competitors reached the final rotation yesterday, was the freshest Soviet pixie to gain prominence, Elena Davidova. 19-year-old with a lot of charm and a small body, Davidova needed a good bars exercise here to stay in front in the competition. She turned in a solid performance, earned a 9.95, and had the look of a champion as she waved to the home folks. The only one who still had a chance to catch her and beat her was Nadia Comaneci. In order to win the gold medal, Nadia needed a score of 9.95 for this beam exercise. She knew it, and so did the judges who have been handing out an abnormal amount of high scores throughout these games. Nadia's beam exercise was outstanding. Just how outstanding was cause for some debate, much controversy, and a very lengthy delay.
For 30 minutes, the judges deliberated and reportedly argued on behalf of their own national interests. The Romanians tried to make sure that Nadia got the 9.95 she needed, and she reportedly was first given that score. The Soviets knew anything less would give Davidova the goal, so they wanted that score reduced. The Soviets won out. A full half hour after Nadia's beam exercise was completed, her score of 9.85 was posted. The score was excellent, but it was also just low enough to deprive Nadia of the gold. And that result was met with much disbelief by the Romanian coach. As for the gold medal, it wound up in the very tiny and elegant hands of Elena Davidova, the new queen of women's gymnastics. The dethroned Nadia Comaneci had to settle for a silver medal tie with Maxi Ganau.
We spoke a bit yesterday about how high the scores have been in in Moscow. And Tom, I think an indication of that is that Nadia, going into yesterday's competition, had a score of 76.05, exactly what she had in Montreal 4 years ago when she was in first, but only this time it was only good enough for fourth.
All right, we'll see you in an hour with more highlights.
Indeed.
All right, Bryant Gumbel, here's Willard Scott.
Gymnastics, the men's gymnastics had some high scores, an awful lot of abnormally high.
Country of Romania are considering boycotting the rest of the Olympics. Sometime on Saturday, Bruce Jenner will lose his title as the world's greatest athlete.
Let's keep the plain old American talking, huh? Something like that, huh? Day 7 of the Summer Olympics in Moscow saw Romania's Nadia Comaneci finally win her gold medal, and for the first time since 1924, a Briton came in first in the 100-meter dash.
As the Moscow Games neared the halfway mark, Day 7 was highlighted by the first appearance of Olympic superstar Teofilo Stevenson. The 28-year-old Cuban women's gymnastics figured to include some controversy, and it did. The controversy swirled around the floor exercise and centered on Romanian star Nadia Comaneci. Completing what some might consider a disappointing Olympic Games for her, Nadia completed this exercise, then saw a 9.90 posted on the scoreboard, and that put her in third place. Nellie Kim of the Soviet Union followed Nadia in the floor exercise, and though she was bothered by an ankle injury, she turned in a performance that appeared to have earned her the gold medal in this, her last exercise of what figures to be her last Olympics. It was after Kim's exercise that the confusion began. Most people in the stands thought that Kim had clinched the gold and that Nadia had earned the bronze. But then they were told there'd been a mistake. A scoreboard malfunction had supposedly shown Nadia's floor exercise to be 9.90, when in fact it was 9.95, enough to tie her for the gold with Nellie Kim, and enough to bring a rare smile to the face of one very great Olympian in what experts feel was her final Olympic appearance. Bryant Gumbel reporting.
Albert swimmers in
Women's gymnastics continues to dominate the news out of Moscow. Nadia Comaneci's Romanian coach charged Russia with arranging Comaneci's low marks in yesterday's competition so as to ensure a Soviet gold medal in the all-around event. The Romanian press went a bit further, saying Russia stole Nadia's gold medal. Nadia did get a measure of revenge, winning the gold in the beam event today. East Germany's Maxi Nock won the gold in the uneven bars. Elsewhere, heavyweight
judging at the Moscow Olympics. If the same practices were being used in the big-time American sports world, the likes of Tommy Heinsohn and Earl Weaver would be gods of sport, being capable of turning defeats to victories with a single utterance. Remember last night, these superimposed letters aside, Nadia Comaneci had apparently locked up the overall title with this performance on the balance beam. However, a hasty deliberation of judges turned what was at first a winning score to a losing one, and Russian Elena Davidova was given the gold, and Nadia was given a heartache. Her coaches screamed plot since the revised score was ordered by the Soviet president of the Gymnastics Federation. Well, today it was Nadia who got an apparently arbitrary win. After finishing third in the floor exercises, her coaches complained that her score should have been higher. And sure enough, it was upgraded, and Nadia got the gold, along with Nellie Kim. Nadia also won the balance beam after officials tossed out complaints that the scores of the Russian runner-up were not high enough. And in more straightforward matters, Alan Wells beat Cubans.
The Romanian gymnast Nadia Comaneci won 2 gold medals. The glamorous men's 100-meter dash.
Patrick Hospitals.
Today, the Romanian gymnast Nadia Comaneci won 2 gold medals. The glamorous men's
The Iron Curtain. 195. Day 3, Nadia begins her competition. Suspense, confusion, and controversy follow her every move. Day 4, tradition falls as and Olympic banners raised, not a national flag, during a medal ceremony. Day 5, the crowd roars and the diver collapses, but it's the judge's decision that creates the biggest splash. Day 6, with a 10, Alexander Dityatin begins his domination of men's gymnastics. Day 7, a Soviet tries to tie all order by winning. We'll get to that. 1976, Nadja Comaneci had captured hearts and medals in equal abundance. Now at 18, she had come to Moscow not as a hopeful princess, but as a reigning queen. She had come to pick up where she'd left off in 76. Back then, she'd made Olympic history by scoring the first 10 and then scoring 6 more after that. One of the gold medals she'd captured 4 years ago was on this apparatus, the balance beam. She proved early in the Moscow competition that she'd lost none of her magic. The rigors of world competition has worn thin the enthusiasm of many a gymnast, but Nadja seems to have eluded that trap. At 18, she is not the cute little girl who touched countless people in Montreal, but she wears her newfound maturity well. It suits her and gives her a regal bearing. Nadja Comaneci served notice to the field that Nadja the Perfect was back by posting the first 10 of the 1980 games. The Soviet women's cause was launched by Natalia Shapashnikova's vault. The diminutive 81-pound Soviet drew a thunderous ovation from the crowd as she collected this perfect score at her first attempt of the day. Shapashnikova's vault opened the door for the powerful Soviet women who have won the team competition in every Olympics dating back to '52. Their strong early performance put them in first place following the compulsory stage of the competition. In the team optionals, the competition started to heat up. Maxi Ganau, East Germany's '79 world champion in uneven bars, again set the standard with this performance. It earned a 10 from the judges. But it seemed that for every 10 one of the other teams turned in, the Soviets would come up with one of their own. Elena Davidova, a 19-year-old who worked her way up through the Soviet gymnastics mill, exploded on the international scene with a perfect floor exercise. Davidova captured the crowd and the judges with her saucy floor routine. She was one of many gymnasts to spice up their routines by using tape music for the first time in the Olympic Games. Davidova's triumph was one of persistence as well as talent. In 1979, she couldn't even make the Soviet national team. In 1980, she became a 10 at the Olympics. Still, it was Nadja everyone waited for. Her 76 bars routine had broken the barrier, the first Olympic 10. Now, 4 years later, Nadja expected to return to the bars with the same result. But after a 9-9 on the balance beam, a score she thought was low, the crowd thought was high, and the judges thought was correct, she took to the bars anticipating gold. But the unthinkable happened. Nadja fell. Her score of 9-5 indicates her perfection before the fall, but that was of little or no consolation to Nadja Comaneci. In the team competition, the Soviet women took the gold, with the Romanians getting the silver and the East Germans the bronze. This was the same order of finish as Montreal. A day later in the individual all-around competition, Nadja took to the bars needing a strong scoring performance to avoid a second spill. She did both as she was again perfect, roaring back into gold medal contention with a 10. East Germany's Maxi Ganau had been contending for the gold, but a poor vault dropped her down, leaving only Elena Davidova between Nadja and the top spot. Davidova knew a strong performance in the bars would put all the pressure on Nadja, so before a pro-Soviet crowd, she hit it. The judges gave her a 9-9-5, allowing her to sit back and watch Comaneci go to work on the beam. Once again, the Romanian occupied center stage. She knew she needed a 9.95 from her beam exercise to take home the gold. The crowd knew it, and so did the judges whose scores had been considered excessively high throughout the game. Nadja's beam exercise was outstanding. Exactly how outstanding created a lot of debate and controversy. For 30 minutes, the judges debated among themselves and reportedly argued on behalf of their own national interests. The Romanians tried to make sure that Nadja got the 9.95 score she needed. The Soviets knew anything less would give their girl Davidova the gold. It was the Soviets who won out. A half hour after Nadja's beam exercise, she was awarded a score of 9.85, a score she met impassively, but which was greeted with disbelief by the Romanian coach. The 9.85 count was just enough to leave the gold medal in the very delighted hands of Elena Davidova. At 19, the new queen of women's gymnastics. Nadja tied for the silver with Maxi Ganauk of East Germany. 2 days later, Comenici won a gold on the beam, then contested another in the finals of the floor exercise. She needed a 9.95 to bring home the gold. A veteran of the perfect 10, she oozed confidence. But when the scores were posted after this dazzling display, the board showed Nadja had earned only a 9.9, enough to get her only a bronze medal in her final competition. Nadja's back was to the wall, and she trailed because of the brilliance of Nellie Kim's performance. Kim, the defending gold medalist in the floor exercise, had re-injured her ankle, and some had said that at the advanced age of 23, she had lost some of her enthusiasm. But she proved to be the total gymnast, turning in an exciting 9.95 for her floor exercise. Kim went to the winner's stand to accept the gold. The crowd was surprised to see her joined there by Nadja Comenici. It seems that Nadja's bronze medal had turned into gold, and it was discovered that her correct floor exercise score was 9.95, not 9.90. Supposedly, the electronic scoreboard had malfunctioned. What a fitting finish. An event that had been surrounded by controversy ended in confusion. I'm joined now by Bart Connor, a gold medal winning gymnast at the World Championships in Dallas just last year.
But this fall hurt her chances greatly. Then, despite a magnificent sequence on the beam, Nadia was not awarded the high score that she and her coaches believed she had earned. Confusion and arguing followed. Nadia won 1 gold, and gymnastics ended pretty much as the Olympics had begun. In
Davidova was the all-around champion. Nadja tied for second, settled for silver. Big shot, ABC.
Una insignia que les distingue como gimnasta internacional. En estos campeonatos del mundo, debido a la magnífica actuación de España, tenemos 2 gimnastas femeninas, Morata y Viseras, y 3 masculinos. Bertrán, Juan José de la Casa y Calvo. Atención, el salto Corbut con giro completo.
Que es mucho más difícil. Mujina está sensacional. Pero no podrá ser campeona del mundo en este aparato.
Es quizá el más moderno de los que hemos visto hasta ahora. Hay...
Давайте Voici Davidova qui se présente pour le saut, alors que la concurrente précédente a obtenu 9,55. Et qui souffle un grand coup avant de s'élancer. Elle joue une médaille d'argent. Ah, un exercice très particulier, une difficulté tout à fait étonnante réalisée par Davidova. C'est un renversement avec un tour complet pendant le premier envol. C'est ce que faisait Olga Korbut. Il y a longtemps qu'on n'avait pas vu un tel saut. Les jeunes filles font maintenant ce qu'on appelle les tsukahara, c'est-à-dire qu'on se retourne plutôt après, elles se retournent avant. Regardez. Et elle revient en bonne position. On va attendre sa note. 9,90 semble-t-il. Oui, 9,90. Elle reste dans le coup. C'est incroyable comme toutes les filles se suivent pendant 3 jours. Deuxième saut, le même. Peut-être un tout petit peu moins bien à la réception, mais je ne suis pas juge. C'est très original. Davidova est la spécialiste des, non pas des innovations, mais des choses que l'on n'attend pas. 9,90 pour le deuxième. Il n'y a pas de jaloux, c'est 9,90 donc qui compte. On siffle dans le public. Alors que nous allons passer tout de suite au sol pour découvrir l'une des petites merveilles.
Estaba Elena Davidova, quien en pantalla vemos cómo esperaba su turno. Ninguna de ellas pesaba más de 40 kilos. Su apariencia infantil nos recordaba precisamente a Nadia, hace 4 años en Montreal. La competencia durísima en Moscú 80. Hacia el final de la competencia múltiple, Shaponikova estaba cuarta. La Davidova en pantalla llegó al equipo soviético casi por accidente, porque la muquina, campeona mundial, había tenido una fuerte lesión. Estamos recordando en Había una vez la competencia de gimnasia artística de 1980. Juegos Olímpicos donde se despidió Nadia Comaneci. Davidova, que llegó tarde a la competencia, termina su participación ubicada en la primera posición. Para alcanzar a la Davidova, Nadia Comaneci necesita a lo menos un 9.9 en la barra. Pero había confianza, porque esta era la especialidad precisamente de las rumanas. Luego de realizar una extraordinaria rutina en ese aparato, Nadia Comaneci debió esperar 20 minutos para conocer la decisión de los jurados, que en definitiva, como vimos en pantalla, le otorgaron un 9.8 que no le alcanzó. Nadia debió ceder su trono a Elena Davidova, quien se lleva el oro en la suma de los aparatos. Pese a ello, Nadia tuvo un buen premio de consuelo, 2 oros y 2 platas. en las pruebas individuales por aparatos. Sumaría en total 5 oros, 3 platas y un bronce en los Juegos Olímpicos en que participó. Se retiró el 81 y hoy vive en los Estados Unidos junto a Bart Corner, su marido. Esta es la historia de Nadia Comaneci, la más grande de las leyendas de la gimnasia artística femenina.